Welcome to the Jon Paul Show, brought to you by AdventuresInMinistry.com, the Palisades Church of Christ, and the Last Leaders Program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe at Jon A.N.D. Paul Show. Go to the website, the website is JonANDPaulShow.com for all the information you need for the show. This is the show, and this is the opportunity for us to share with you the week. We got a lot of things to talk about. With me, as always, is Jon Paul, and side by side with him is Caleb Sampson. And we are here with you for the Jon Paul Show, and it starts right now.
Paul, I am just really afraid for you and for all of the people in our listening audience who watch you right now. Guys, you need to understand, Paul has undergone some stressors this morning with passwords, and he is just crazy, lost his mind.
I figured you'd say something like, "Hey, Paul came in for a bad day," but boy, you couldn't tell that by the way he's talking to our listening audience. He loves you people. You know,
he does.
Little uplifting stuff. Good. He does.
He does. It is crazy. It is crazy knowing. But Paul, you having a good morning?
It's okay.
After you got through all your stuff.
It's fine. I'm glad to be here. What's more important than the morning is a week. This has been quite literally the best week of my life.
It has been for you.
I was able to assist in bringing our daughter, not yours and mine, Jon, but Stephanie and I, our daughter, Lainey Rose, is now a child of God. She's been studying for months and months, and made the decision on her own. And so we. Yeah, it was really neat. Pictures were made, and family came down. The Pope came down.
The Pope came down.
He did. That's weird. That's a weird thing. That's gonna get that phrase alone will go viral. Actually, Philip Hines, my father-in-law, and Julia, and Kristen and Marley, and my mom, Beverly, came down from Hartsville to come down and be a part of it, and it was came to Palisades Wednesday afternoon, and so. You know, folks asked why in the afternoon. Well, Philip, he got to teach that night, so we had to make sure to get everybody together. So it was a neat thing.
Well, Paul, you said something that is you and Stephanie's daughter, not mine and yours. There was that one time when we were at the mall.
There was that one time. that was a fun story.
Okay, guys, who are listening, there wasn't one time.
You're going to tell the story.
Huh?
You're going to tell the story now. Okay. Let's go.
Where we went, you were getting a watch or getting a band fit?
I was getting a band refit, yeah.
And so it was just me and you and Lainey, and you were going and doing all that. And then, so me and Lainey were like walking around doing something. And what did the lady say to you?
As I was putting it on, she looked at you two, and she looked at me and she says, "Y'all have a precious little girl." And I'm like, "Yes, we do." Yes, we do. And I said, "Oh, no. I mean, I have a precious little girl. Her mother has a precious little girl, and this is just Uncle Jon. So please understand." And so we had to straighten that out.
I was like, "Here, let me go look at rings over here." Oh, Stephanie just joined us, so she heard that right at the time.
She's gonna turn it off.
She is. She's gonna be like, "What in the world are y'all saying now?"
I know. She has to rewind it and see, and she's like, "Wait a minute." Yeah, we definitely needed to straighten that one out.
Yes, Stephanie, we were talking about the watch incident at Montgomery, at Eastdale Mall in Montgomery.
The lady who was assisting us.
Yes, she's laughing now, so she knows exactly what we're talking about with all of that. So congratulations to Lainey and Steph and Paul and everybody in your family. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
That is great with everything. Well, Paul, this has been, unless you've been under a rock, everybody has been paying attention to the bracketology. March Madness is here.
Yeah, it is. And hopefully some folks in our listening audience have decided to participate in that. And if not, sorry. But it's fun, and we'll see how it goes. I hope, in addition to that, I think Caleb will appreciate me mentioning this. I hope that folks will go back and look at the ministry cafe this week, as we've also been talking about bracketology, not just with basketball, but also with Christian, with the Bible characters And so it was kind of a neat little talk. It's a really cool little study if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at what aspects make a basketball team the victors, or how do you pick certain teams? If you put like Abraham against Moses, what aspects of each of them would make one even any better than the other? And so you create methodology. I think it'd be kind of cool to do that like in a youth group or an adult class atmosphere. It'd be kind of fun just to get the ideas, and then ask yourself, where would you in your life, where would you lie in the psychology of God's people of working and good things and things like that. So really neat concept on that. We're waiting for Podine to come out with on one of those ministry cafes. He will need about 5 minutes in a day to be able to do that. But kind of
one day I will get 5 minutes.
So yeah. So.
One day I'll get 5 minutes. Hey, Jerry is sitting here saying, Jerry, you should have been in our pool that we had. He only has 1 loss after last night. I have 3. Paul, I think you got 4.
Yeah, way to go. Thanks for saying that.
I just wanted to say, that for once I was.
Don't worry, Paul, you're not winning here.
But Travis Creasy is leading our bracketology pool.
No better person to be leading this than Travis Creasy. Can I say this? Answered prayers. Love that guy.
Yep.
He is now in remission.
Absolutely.
I mean, we got a lot of great, awesome info starting to show out. And Travis, man, we are so happy. Number one, that you are in remission from cancer. God bless you. We love you. And number 2, way to go with your picks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so awesome like that. And man, we couldn't if people don't believe in the power of prayer, there you go.
That's right.
And everything. So we're glad that's happening. And he is leading our bracketology pool things that are taking place here. And so we'll get to see what happens today with the next round of games that are taking place. Yeah, Jerry, I feel bad too because Louisville messed me over too. I thought Louisville would beat Minnesota, but they didn't.
Yeah, Minnesota had them for some reason.
Yeah, but so you got a big weekend coming up, Paul?
Yeah, we got a lot of things going on here. We have our men's breakfast here at Palisades Church tomorrow morning, and a planning session with our men of the church. And so tomorrow is going to be a big day. We're looking forward to that. I had that on the calendar for quite some time, which is why I can't be with you this weekend, as you'll be going to SOAR.
I will be. I'm leaving here basically after we finish the show. Yeah. Heading over to Augusta and go see High Note and everybody over there. And so excited to be over there for this weekend. So it's going to be a wonderful time over there. And, we're going to miss you being over there. And so, I'll just carry a Jon and Paul. I'll carry a big Paul stand up next to me.
You should. That way we can be together and hang out. Yeah, tell everybody I said, hey, sorry I missed, but we got other stuff going on. But anyway, what else is going on, Jon? Anything else happening?
Man, we just got a lot of stuff going on in the world still. Aunt Becky fallout is still going crazy with everything that's taking place.
From what you were telling me earlier, her children are turning on her.
They are. They're mad. They're real mad that they've never done anything in their life except make video blogs. And now that they don't even have college, they can't even do their video blogs because people are saying stuff. So, yep, their life is in ruin.
That's a shame. I hate that. That millionaire heiresses having to deal with life. I wonder seriously if these kids going to USC, if they knew what their mom went through to get them in. And please understand, we're not justifying what Aunt Becky did.
Right.
And we also realize her name is Lori Laughlin. Her name's Aunt Becky. All right. So we're not defending her at all. I'm just curious if she actually told her kid, hey, daughter, you're not good enough to get to school, so we're going to pay for it. We're going to get you in there. I mean, does a parent say that to their child? I mean, what's the deal?
That's a good question.
I mean, next time, Jon and Paul should. No, I was kidding. It's not going to be next time. I'm not spending a whole hour talking about Aunt Becky. I'm sorry. Maybe before all this.
Yeah.
It's a lie. I was a little jealous of Uncle Jesse growing up. For 2 reasons: his hair. 3 reasons: his hair, all his Elvis paraphernalia, and he dated Aunt Becky because she was hot. When I was in high school, I can say that. In high school, I thought she was hot. Now she's not. Stephanie is hot. So see what I did
Good
there?
answer. Good answer. Since she's listening.
I know. Stephanie actually has a problem with that, Becky, because she was in a lot of Hallmark movies and she hates Hallmark. So
That's okay. I saw Stephanie comment earlier that when we get to our Versus series, that she is on Team Ham and Cheese. So that'll be something everybody's going to pay attention to here in a little bit later.
Of course she is. She is the ultimate antagonist. She's like the dark side to my light side.
That's why I love her.
She doesn't like Star Wars either. There's that. But I do love her. So don't misunderstand.
Since you better.
Honestly,
dig himself a hole here.
It keeps our marriage going. It's great. It's back and forth, and it's a lot of fun. And I do hear, I'm not just saying this because she's on here, but I do hear a lot of people that have marital problems and issues. We honestly don't really have a lot of issues. I always do whatever she says. So we're good to go.
Hey, Jerry asked a question, Paul. He says about this whole Aunt Becky thing. How does entitlement play into all this? It's not what you know, but who you know.
Yeah. We could parallel that with something else.
We could.
And that's true. It's all about who you know. I could go spiritual on him real quick on this, and he's like, "Oh, you're right." But yeah, I know Jesus, so hopefully, because I know him, I'm gonna live for him. I'll go to heaven.
This does kind of lead right into our topic here, though, for this morning of what we kind of wanted to get at.
Yeah, but you missed all the news we're trying to do.
I know. Sorry. We'll come back to that question in a minute.
All right. Well, we'll do it. Two things. Number one, we want to get into a little sports and a little news before we get to our thing, because the Versus series is the last thing we're going to talk about. Very important. And with Brandon, I do see what he's saying about the whole world's culture of pay your way through. And this is going through sports too, with everything else. So coaches losing their jobs, especially like that. Some news: geotagging and geo-poaching is becoming one and the same. So when you go on vacation, just a little hint here: don't take pictures of animals that shares the latitude and longitude of their location, because people are literally poaching those animals because you're telling them where they're located. This is on top news today on the New York Times. So keep that in mind. Also, when we mentioned that, Becky, in the sports realm of things, of course, we talked about bracketology. Alabama, shocker, is looking for a new basketball coach. Who is the next victim? Who's going to go 3 or 4 years without winning games? So who's that guy going to be? Who would they get? I have no clue. I wish it was somebody, but no one is going to go there unless they want a quick $6 million to do not do well at all. The other thing too, John, I mentioned this to you. Auburn fans won't appreciate this, but they may need to know this. Mario Cristobal, what a great coach! He learned under the tutelage of Nick Saban and worked side by side with Kirby Smart, and he has taken all of his assistants from Oregon to Alabama for their spring training, and also the last part of the trip heading over to Athens, getting a little help there. And
so now I know you're being conspiracy theorist here. You really just don't think he just wanted to go learn some coaching techniques?
Okay, if you are Mario Cristobal and you are coaching at the Oregon Ducks, the most awesome uniforms in the history of sports, owned by Nike, which that's a whole other thing. Would you go to Kirby Smart and ask him for help?
Well, of course, if you're friends.
If you're friends, yeah, but I mean, without any reason. I mean, you really want to go and say, "Hey, can you help us Ducks? We can't play football over in Oregon." No, you want to say, "Hey, you and my friend Nick have a common
opponent.
Opponent. I won't say enemy.
You're gonna say enemy.
A common opponent in the Auburn Tigers, and so help me out a little bit." That's their first game, I think, of the year. So
it is.
Conspiracy theorist, yes, of course. Just a guess, but Auburn can't be happy with the fact that their two biggest rivals are sharing some information with Oregon coming in first game of the year. I'm just curious. I mean,
you're right. I don't think Oregon's going to have much of a trouble anyway. The first game of the year with their team that they have coming back, and Auburn's still trying to find their way through things.
Did quarterback stay, Herbert, or did he go to pro?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't pay that much close attention to the Oregon football situation.
Oh, should. Oh, amazing. I was kind of hoping that Jalen would have gone to Oregon. That was awesome. But anyway. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, so here we go. Do your little lead in.
My little lead in here.
You know what would happen here, John, if Mario went to Alabama and went to Georgia and he did all this studying, and if he still lost to the Auburn Tigers, boy, that would be disappointing.
That would be pretty disappointing, Paul. Kind of like all the things that we've been talking about here this morning with those teams that have lost. I mean, Alabama lost to Northwestern Technical College at their home arena the other day. It's costing Avery Johnson his job, and Paul has just left the building because of that.
I'm warming up my coffee.
Yes, we all have disappointments. We were talking about earlier about Aunt Becky and now the kids and going through some other things. And Brandon said, yeah, it kind of says a lot about our culture, and that it pays, you pay your way into something. And Paul keeps going all over the place here. That's so interesting. So, and it's not just in education, it's in sports, it's in the church, it's in all these things like this. And so that is disappointment. And, what do we do, as Christians? How do we handle disappointments? Because all throughout the Bible, you kind of see that woven in. You see great successes, but then you see some disappointments. You see some things and that people go through. So Paul, give me your thoughts here a little bit about what we're even talking about.
Well, I want to make sure we're not confused and put something on the table that might confuse some folks. Are we saying a disappointment falls under the guidelines of James 1, verse 2? That's
right. I understand what you're saying.
Coffee's ready. But I'll wait till you're at time to talk before I go over there and get that. All right. Okay. So, because I don't want to disappoint our listeners. All right. So here we go. Because you got James 1 verse 2. Count all joy when you face trials and tribulations. Because it produces patience. I get that, and that's a good thing. My question here's my question: is does that fall under the realm of a disappointment? If I'm disappointed, should I be excited I'm disappointed? Because if you face trials and tribulations, I should be excited because that means God believes that I can overcome. That's what we're finding from that passage there in James chapter 1, 2 through 4, to keep it together on that. But disappointments, they happen all the time. I would think disappointments happen probably more often than a big-time trial that I think God's probably talking about. What do you think?
I think you're right, Paul. I think trials can include disappointments, but there's something that's a little bit different when we're just talking about disappointments. Like disappointment is to be discouraged or sad because of an unmet expectation, whether it's somebody or something. Now, yes, those can include trials with it, like something like if we expected somebody to act in a certain way and they did something completely different that may cause us heartache or something else over here. It's a challenge probably that comes to all that and trying to deal with all that. And so I do think that there is a piece in which disappointments can be trials, but trials aren't necessarily disappointments.
Okay. Good point. So I guess it could be one of the two. You're disappointed when trials happen because it's like, oh man, here it comes. But at the same time, there are little disappointments. I think disappointments are different than lies. Some people say it's a little white lie or it's a really big one. I think disappointments can come in different shapes and sizes as well. But I think a lie is a lie. But a disappointment, I think, can actually come in little situations. And I think disappointment could be a big disappointment. If I didn't apply myself in school and I didn't do well on a test, I'd be disappointed. Mm-hmm. I had a loved one who passed away because of a terrible disease. That's a much larger disappointment. And actually, technically, that would probably fall in the category of a trial. So I think disappointments, small disappointments are okay. They happen in their life. But the big disappointments, I think that's the James 1-2 thing we're talking about.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, I think Scott, he makes some comments here, Scott McCown, he said, but it's, what you're kind of talking about, talking about trials, that general life, or does it connect with more of all who desire to live godly lives and face persecution? And that's what I think what you're talking about with the trial thing, because Jerry also comments in here and he says, and I like how he puts his definition for disappointment. He says generally comes from not living up to expectations. I was looking up some stuff about disappointments and I found that quote some there, and they said expectation is the root of all heartache. that's kind of the root of where those disappointments come in, is because of whether it's a person or whether it's a thing, whether it's something personal within our life that we have a high standard, or we expect to accomplish these things or do things in a certain way, and when we don't do them, or somebody doesn't do it, or something doesn't happen, then it's like, wow, I expected this, and this is what I got.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely. So what are some of those things? What are some of the little things? I think one of the things as a youth minister is when, and I'm just going to say this, when you expect a certain number of people in class on certain Wednesday night and you don't have it, you're disappointed. In most cases, not so much here in Birmingham, but when I was in Montgomery, a lot was predicated upon what was happening at ACA.
Sure.
The high school just across the ditch, literally there's a ditch between the church and the school and the high school. And if they had an event, there's times that the school would have like a Wednesday night evening event, and it would keep the kids over there for that. Or maybe it's a weekend thing, and school have it. And that, and you know this because your kid went through there. ACA is very connected. Their staff's very connected to students and activities, and sometimes that happens. It's not just that. It's other things that may draw people away. For a preacher to preach, maybe he's prepared the best sermon he's ever preached, and he gets up there and the number's off a little bit. I mean, you're a little disappointed that maybe, and you hate admitting this. I get to look at Caleb's eyes as I'm doing this, and he's shaking his head. Sometimes you prepare a sermon because someone needs to hear that message, and if they're not in the pews, it's like,
right,
it's something else I can pull out because I need that person to hear that. And you're a little disappointed. So I think there's levels of disappointment, not catastrophes, because I think when your disappointment turns into catastrophes, then we move into the trial tribulation area.
Right. And I think you're right. You mentioned about being a youth minister in here in Montgomery with ACA sitting right across. Scott says, it's the same thing for him living in Tuscaloosa and all the activities that are taking place on campus at the University of Alabama. Brandon goes with what you were saying here earlier, that he thinks that there needs to be a distinction between persecution and like annoyance / disappointment, because we often end up trivializing real life altering persecution by the words we use. Like he says, like love. I love my wife and I love cheeseburgers. And I would hope they mean different things. Disappointments are different than count it all joy as it pertains to persecution and these things we're faced. And that's true that being persecuted for what you believe, or being persecuted because you're standing up for your faith, that's not a disappointment.
Right.
That's not a disappointment. It may disappoint us how people that we are friends with react to us, but that's not a disappointment.
Well, I like what Jerry said there. Let me jump on this. I know you're looking at it. But basically, when someone says they're disappointed in you, what does that tell your heart? My heart drops 10,000 feet.
Absolutely, it does.
If it was one of you two guys and I did something, or if it was Jerry or Dale or Jeff or someone that I just put in very high esteem, and if I've done something disappointing and they said that to me, oh, man, I got goosebumps like on the back of my neck, hair standing up, because that's the last thing in the world that I would ever want to do. And so I think in order to alleviate and to keep those things from happening, I think there's a part of life, a part of us, the essence of our people, our person, is what can I do to avoid disappointment in others? So it's one thing to receive the disappointment. Man, it's hurtful to know you've done something to disappoint somebody else when you almost don't even realize it. And in ministry, that happens more than often than anywhere else.
It is, Paul. And I think you just nailed a big thing, because I know we have a lot of people that listen to this that are involved in ministry. And I think that's probably one of the greatest challenges that ministers face. And that is the disappointment of, like, if you're trying your best and somebody comes and says, that was just an awful thing, or I'm just disappointed in you and how this handled, or you work so hard for something and, like you said, people don't come or don't appreciate some of those things. That's why we've been on this show and others in other places, whether it's at the lectureships, when we've talked about is encouraging people to support and encourage your ministers, because there is so much mentally and emotionally that ministers put into their job that, when you don't get that disappointment can start building and building and building and building. And we have people getting out of the pulpits. We have people getting out of ministry because disappointments.
Yeah. Here's the ultimate disappointment. Let's hit each other at the heart here. If somebody came to me and said that youth event was a waste of our time, that would kill me.
Yeah.
But I love you, and I'm in this in all respect when I say this. But if somebody came up to you and said, one of those songs wouldn't really pitch right, I know you, and you're like, you know what? Forget you. I'll never lead singing here ever again. I'm just saying that you would do that, but you and I have that relationship. We say that to each other. Fine, I'm out. I'm done. It's like you lead singing then. What I love, this is going to get a little funny here, and if you've ever done this or you sing this way, I apologize. But if you sing a high tenor off the tone of the song, please don't sit within 5 feet of Podine when he's trying to lead the song, because he is going to feel disappointed. You can't sing with that in your face. I'm just saying. So, and I'm saying, I'm right. We've had this conversation. It's a true thing. So I'm not going to say where. But anyway, when you get in a big crowd of people, make sure that, and I'm saying this right here for the benefit of everybody, when we have the atrium singing, that's probably, and he won't admit this, but I'm going to say this, that's a big reason why we clear the bottom floor. So the sound can go through, but also sort of the song leader who's leading singing for, and let's face it, 1 million people, okay, or 1 million views. I'm serious, because people there, but people who listen to that and sing that later on, you want to make sure and carry a good sound. Now, somebody can come back at me and say, hey, Paul, it's not about how it sounds. I know that, but we're trying to convert the lost across the world. And if they're singing this singing, there you go. You like it. Yeah. It's important that everything is on point. And that's why we try. People say, y'all are so organized, and we appreciate how the program goes. If it doesn't go like it should, something's going to falter. And I don't want somebody to come to me and say, man, this is a very unorganized event. I mean, I go in hiding for a week. I mean, I couldn't deal with it, and so sometimes the little things get us, but it's because the things we're the most proud of. And sometimes the things that disappoint us probably means nothing to anybody else. So disappointments on different levels in different areas.
Well, and I agree. And I wanted to bring up here a question that Jerry asked and Scott's replied to it, which is interesting here. And I think, and I'll give my answer to Scott's question back here in a second. And is Jerry asked, well, is this what people felt in their heart on the day of Pentecost when they realized their sins? Mm-hmm. And Scott asked the question, was that disappointment or is that guilt? I would answer back, yes. Mm-hmm. It's both, because part of guilt, sin in our conscience is realizing that we haven't lived up to the expectations that we need to live up for God.
Right.
That's part of what, when Paul says it's godly sorrow that works repentance, I believe that's part of it, that sometimes we are disappointed in ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're disappointed that we hurt God. We're disappointed in how we've lived. And so this is where I think guilt and disappointment, we have to be careful. And I don't want to get into a psychological discussion here, but we have to be careful, because that affects people so hard mentally that's what leads to depression. That's what leads to getting in a dark place, and sometimes even ultimately sometimes in suicide.
Right.
And
go ahead.
No, I just think that's why we have to be careful, and that's why we're talking about this, is how do we respond to disappointments in our life?
Yeah, we definitely need to finish this with that. But also, I like when you mentioned this too, but what Scott did say about the disappointment or guilt, and Jerry saying yes to both, mm-hmm. I think one leads to the other.
Yeah.
I think that when you're disappointed, you take responsibility for what's happening. You're taking responsibility for if those kids show up. Have I motivated them enough to know that you're going to have a good class? It's going to be, you're going to connect with the material and with the message and with the way in which it was delivered, or the song service, or the sermon, or the event, or things. If you're suffering from a disappointment that occurs, it turns into guilt. It's like, did I not do it like I should have? Did I not apply myself properly? Did I not push that in like I should have? And so I really think that's something that goes with that.
Right. And well, I think Scott's right with this. Fighting disappointment concerning my efforts, singing, event planning, starts with asking ourselves, why are we doing this? Is it about me, or is it about God? Exactly. And I think that's exactly where we get into it. I think this may be, Paul, a flesh versus spirit battle sometimes that happens, because I think disappointments can reveal your true heart. Why is it getting you disappointed? What is it getting you to do it? Why is it getting you to do these things in the way that they're doing? And sometimes our disappointments helps turn our focus back to where it belongs, and that's on God.
Well, stay right there with that topic right there. That point of view is we constantly feel disappointment because we have to live up to such a standard, and God doesn't expect us to live up to the standard of Jesus, but He does want us to strive for that. I mean, perfect by translation in the Greek is maturity, and He wants us to be mature. He wants us to follow through, but sometimes we don't. We don't, and so disappointment sets in, and it's like, how in the world can I set up? I mean, He told us in Romans Himself. He says, "No one's good, no one but God." So try not to put yourself in a position where you have to do that, but always strive for that. Okay, you got 1 Corinthians 15:58. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding. Be striving for it. If you fall, fall. But guess what? You got a God and a Lord that's going to pick you up, and brothers and sisters are going to encourage you, and you get to continue. But strive. When you stop going, that's when the guilt can set in and really hurt.
Yes. Brandon said that his grandmother used to say, if you woke up tomorrow with the only things you were grateful for today, what would you have? And the greatest ideal that has stayed with him, has helped him through the daily disappointments of life, is the art of gratitude. And that's kind of what Paul says. And with all things in life, I've learned to be content. Right. Wherever I'm at. And part of the times, especially in our society, that we get so disappointed is a lot of it is a lack of contentment with where we're at. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to improve ourselves and we shouldn't strive to achieve greater things, but sometimes the disappointment comes in because, okay, I'm 22 years old, I just graduated from college, and I just spent all this money for this degree, and I should be able to run a big event, or I should be able to be a CEO, or I should be able to do some of these things. And so we have some of these expectations. And Paul says, learn where you're at right now. Mm-hmm. And like Scott is bringing a nice Alabama thing in here. The Saban is just the process of striving for perfection. It is. And there's nothing wrong with striving to be better.
Yeah.
Just keep everything, I guess, in balance with where it needs to be.
Well, and that segues into the platform of the whole discussion, sort of bringing this to a halt, to an end. Is we know what disappointment is. We know the levels of it. How do we respond to it? Right. Because there's so many times in all these, and we've done the research, John, on the congregations and why they grow, why they don't grow. We've done these things. We prepare for these things. We go places and help people with these things. But a lot of folks give, here's the problem. Well, give me the prescription to fix it. And so that's what right now is about. So, John, let's talk a little bit about what can we do to bounce back from that disappointment. And I think it goes from what Scott just said. He says, understand, don't quit. Don't ever quit. If I know anything from my dad in his life, and the books that he's written that literally is never give up, is continue to go no matter what. I mean, you're going to be knocked down. You may be hit with disease. You may lose kids. I mean, think about Job. You're talking about disappointment. Right. And the guy continued in faith to him no matter what. And so I think that's something to consider, is just don't give up and try to stay forward and do the best you can to continue, because God's not going to give up on you.
Well, and I think what it is, and I think you nailed on some of these things right to the point right there, is that God will not give up on you. We know the verses, Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart, don't lean on your understandings, and all your ways acknowledge Him, He'll direct your paths. Isaiah 40:31, where it says, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. We understand all this. And sometimes our disappointments helps readjust where we're trying to follow in the will of God. I think about Jesus. You tell me he wasn't disappointed in that night in the Garden of Gethsemane when he's getting arrested, and then everybody takes off and runs away. But his still thought was, not my will, but yours be done.
That's right. What a tough road that was.
Yeah. And so it helps adjust us back to what needs to be. When David says in Psalm 119, I believe, where he says, sustain me, O God, according to your promise, and I will live. It helps us understand that our whole life and our being and everything that we have, and it's kind of a faith thing. Disappointments, just as much as a faith challenge as trials are, is trusting that God will take care of us no matter what.
Yeah, I like your list of your list of Bible verses there to help you out. That's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good. And I like even at the best possible scenario when Jesus is sitting among his disciples in John 14, Don't worry. Don't lose heart. It's going to be okay. He gives the best line of encouragement just off of who's good and who follows me. If you love each other, go back to verse 13. If you love each other, show it by your love for one another because you love me. That's how you show how you're a disciple. And then he goes in and says, and I'm fixing to leave you. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to prepare a heaven for you. You can't go where I'm going. Thomas gets all weird, and he says, you can't go where I'm going. Let me do what I'm going to do. Don't worry, I'm going to come back and get you. That's something I think that helps us out, and I think that's something that helps really get us going on this. Is the fact that disappointment happens, but he's going to come back and get us. He's going to come back and pick us up, and we're not going to deal with this forever. And that's the saving grace, I think, to help us out through the day.
And I love, and Paul, even in my disappointing moments, one thing I've always done, and I'd recommend people doing this in this thing, is go through the Psalms. And just, I started in Psalm 1 and just have worked my way through on these. And how many times you read, especially if you get through those first couple of Psalms in there, he goes through and he starts saying, "Hear my cry, O God." Or, "In the day of my distress, I called out to you and you answered me." And all of these things where David is basically saying, "God, you were here for me in my darkest moments, in the times where people disappointed me, or when times where people were after me, or in times when I messed up, you were there." It gets back to us getting back into the Word and reading it and believing what we're reading, that God will always be there and take care of us.
Right. Hey, counterpoint, not just David, but his son Solomon.
Exactly.
Go to Ecclesiastes, all the questions he asked about why is life not fair? Why am I dealing with a situation? The wind blows both ways. How do I deal with this, Lord? How do I make the most of my time? What's going on with my life? Even the money thing. I think Solomon became the wise man not because he asked for wisdom, but also because he was willing to ask God for help and guidance. And I think, Scott gives us a really good list of things to look at. Everybody needs to look at that. But the one I love is number 4. Look to God's word for direction. And that's how we're going to find ourselves out of the pit of despair and agony of disappointment if we continue to look upward towards the high calling of God, not to go quoting KJV, but you know what I'm saying, and finding him and getting towards where we need to be.
Well, and that's the thing. We claim to be people of the book, and this is getting onto it. We don't need to get into this discussion. This will be another discussion for another time. We claim to be people of the book. We've got to get back to the book and listen to what God has to say to us.
That's good. Can't say any better. That's awesome.
So, hey, stick with us, and we'll have some more discussions here in the next coming weeks that will help us, and maybe we'll get to focus on some more of these things.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a break just for a minute.
That was like 3 seconds.
Well, it's going to have to be more than 3 seconds. I just want to make sure and take a minute and give Caleb a chance as we're about to transition to the next part of our show. This is the part that I know everyone's been waiting on, and I know
they have been waiting on.
We've been waiting on this. What's his name? Oh, you, John. All of us basically have been talking about these things and excited about these things. We're about to enter into the Verses series, but before we do, we need music. But before we do, we need to go ahead and thank everyone. Well, Caleb, first of all, for putting that poll out, but also to everyone for voting, and also for voting this week, because we have a new Verses series, and I think, should we introduce that next week now? And to get that part of business out of the way, let's do that. Okay. So we tweeted, I tweeted, we shared the tweet about the polling of the Verses series. We want the people to have a voice. And so that is such a way to go. And so, okay. Sorry, Jerry. Jerry's got to go. Mama's got to get her hair done. We got the real good stuff happening. We love you too. So Malvin answered to talking to Malvin through Twitter about something, a Versus series opportunity, and his was 2 restaurants, which to me are almost simultaneous restaurants.
They absolutely are.
Look at the front door. So we're almost getting into it. Let's not get too much into it. It's Crystals versus White Castle.
Yes. So what people will have to do is pay attention for the poll for next week, so we can get y'all's view on that too as we talk about that.
Exactly. Y'all get a vote. I'm curious regionally who actually has access to a White Castle, so we'll just go there. That's next week.
That's true.
But this week, it's happening right now.
Is it? Oh, it is, Paul. It is time for the
Versus series with the Johnny Paul Show. Brought to you by Johnny Paul.
yeah, yes, that was so great. Everybody
Oh,
loved that
like
part.
right there. That's crazy.
Oh,
So here's the thing. I can't remember who even suggested this. Somebody suggested this. I can't remember who. I said that twice. But it is peanut butter and jelly versus ham and cheese. Now, John, before we get into any kind of debate here,
right.
I think before we even get started, I think you and I need to talk just a few minutes about the delight, the glory of the ham sandwich experience, of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich experience, because there's nothing better than a quick lunch, right?
Absolutely, because we're poor. We are poor.
We're in the street to hook 'em up.
So everybody's got to try to find ways to be able to save a dime.
There you go.
So going to Walmart and buying some peanut butter and your favorite jelly. I always got to have the Welch's grape jelly. That's what I've got to have. That's in there, and the favorite peanut butter, whether it's creamy or nutty, or whatever.
Oh, epic fail. Go ahead. Get that later. Okay.
People got to buy it with the ham, and do you get deli sliced? Do you get like the good kind? Do you get the cheap kind? The cheese that's got to come with it at all, and everything like this to save money. So yes, everybody loves a good quick lunch, Paul.
Okay. That being said, let's get into it.
Oh,
All right.
ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear some. How do I say this, Paul?
I don't know, John. How are you going to say it?
Some disappointments in this talk here. One of us is going to be disappointed here very soon.
They sure are. They sure are. We'll see what happens on this one. Before we get started, Caleb, help us out, bud. Who won our poll? What's that go right now? And by the way, the poll is probably going to be out within the next 24 hours for the one for next week. So please pay attention to that. But the poll for now is, I guess I could just get my phone and find it. I'm sorry, I put him on the spot there. But we're looking for the poll and see who the people choose. And maybe that's something we should share at the end. Who the people? Let's do that. Let's do our thing and then let the people choose. Right now, of course, Brandon's having Greek gyros or heroes.
Heroes.
What do you call that?
I don't know.
I thought it was gyros. Gyros.
Hero. Thank you, Caleb, for coming in there.
Starts with the letter H, but it is Greek, and I understand the Greek language. Well, I don't understand the Greek language, but I understand that it's very difficult to understand. So there we go.
My lexicon helps me understand the Greek language.
I got 4 or 5 books out. Okay. 68 to 32.
That was a lot closer than I thought.
Who led that? PB&J won by double. You thought it'd be closer than that?
No, I thought it's closer than what I thought it would be.
Oh, okay.
It's actually closer than what I thought it'd be.
All right. So let's start with ham and cheese, John.
Let's go ahead and start with ham and cheese. Paul, ham and cheese is a classic. We're talking about 2 classics here, so let's get that under everybody understanding. Ham and cheese is a classic.
Let's start with ingredients, John. Let's get some ingredients happening.
Okay. Well, both of them have bread. Correct with that?
No, we're talking about ham and cheese. So
ham. Can you go wrong with the ham, Paul? I mean, we have bacon, we have ham. We cook it for Thanksgiving. We cook it for Christmas. That is one of the premier meats that we have during these wonderful times.
Okay.
And what are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing.
And then, of course, you have. I can't look at Caleb. He's cracking me up right now. Then, of course, you have.
He's going.
I got to get off of him from seeing this.
First, this series is awesome.
Then you have your cheese, and you're getting your daily milk that you need, because every one of us need milk. Because Paul, you need milk. You're getting older, and your bones are going to start getting brittle. So you need to be able to take care of yourself. What does that look for?
I don't understand. Why are my bones getting brittle when I'm just like 2 years older than you?
Because mine are, so I know that yours are. Dale asked the question, which kind of ham?
There's a lot of kinds.
The good kind, Dale.
The good kind. That's kind of vague, my friend. Oh, brother, the good kind. Well, if you need to find out how to properly pronounce Hero, Brandon put it in the chat room, so go there.
That's funny.
I mean, he would know. I mean, there's
Okay,
no doubt.
Paul. Well, then before we get any further, then let's hear about your peanut butter and jelly.
Well, I mean, we're not through with your ham and cheese yet.
Oh.
I mean, you talked about, I mean, the good stuff. Is there a drawback to ham and cheese?
To me, there's not a drawback. You can use mustard or you can use mayonnaise on it.
Okay, we're not putting mustard on ham and cheese, okay? We're not putting mustard on cheese.
Do you never put mustard on your stuff when you go to Subway?
No!
Oh.
Never. No mustard. No mustard. Mustard. I mean, how long have you known me? It's like we're drifting apart. Okay, here's the deal. Wait, someone's in your office.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Is it no, she didn't make this trip.
No, Lee Woodring just walked into my office here.
Who did?
Yes, I have a guest appearance of Lee Woodring.
Oh, hey. How are you doing?
Yes, she's the guest host on the Jon Paul.
Awesome. What's your favorite? Ham and cheese or peanut butter and jelly?
What's your favorite, ham and cheese or peanut butter and jelly?
Peanut butter and jelly. I don't like ham unless it's on a croissant. And then a ham and cheese croissant is where it's at.
That's what I had this morning for breakfast, actually.
Wow, I gotta try that out. That sounds good. It's good to see you.
I'm going to get my kid now.
Okay.
Hey.
See you, girl.
Good to see you, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something you need to consider with ham and cheese. Do you have any idea how long peanut butter and jelly can last? Here we go, John.
Okay, tell me about peanut butter and jelly, and I'm going to tell you my argument.
I've had some bad ham before, and ham doesn't last very long. Okay, I think it lasts maybe a week in the fridge. If you go 2 weeks,
mine has lasted longer than that.
Okay, then you're tasting some sour ham. All right, and your cheese actually has a good long shelf life in the fridge, I would assume.
It's right.
It depends on what kind of cheese you're using there.
Yes.
There is the boar's butt ham, which is, I would think, the top of the line ham. It has a smoky, rich roast taste. There is the honey baked ham, which people have gotten. We've been there before. Nice restaurant. You can hardly see them. They need more. It's a really awesome place. But anyway, those are fine. I can take a jar of peanut butter, put it on a shelf, and a year later, it's just as good. So please keep that in mind. I love peanut butter and jelly. Okay, peanut butter and jelly takes less ingredients to get to the finish line of the making process because it's not ham, cheese, mayonnaise, mustard. It is simply peanut butter jelly.
Oh, Paul, but here's the thing.
It's good. It's good. Makes a prayer. So here's what happens here. Very interesting to understand. If you're going to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you got to go creamy. Okay. Nobody wants no sneaky nuts in your sandwich. All right. That's just not something anybody wants. Okay. That just presents all kinds of trouble, all kinds of harm.
Oh Lord.
Those of us who are dealing with diverticulitis can't deal with that. So peanut butter and jelly is the way to go. Now here's the great thing. With your ham and cheese, there are options, but with peanut butter and jelly, you have grape jelly, as you have so eloquently decided that is one of the best, which I'm willing to believe it's top 2, 3. Strawberry jelly is awesome. I love the ones that the squeeze bottles because I don't like to wipe it out there. All right, so you got that. You got peach. All right. Grandma, I call her Mama. She used to make this pear preserves like beyond belief, man. You lay that on a piece of bread, you put peanut butter on the side. Oh, you kidding? Life is happening now. I'm just telling you the succulent taste of what you can appreciate through what Peter Pan can put on one side and what Mama can put on the other seems to reign supreme in the eyes of this Sperlin. And
okay, Paul. Okay, Paul. Let me go ahead and say why it's not peanut butter and jelly, but it is ham and cheese with all this. And so this is we're gonna take care of the audience right here, so everybody knows. Because first of all, ham and jelly is not based on a fairy tale like Peter Pan that flies around in a tight little outfit.
You say. And
the second thing is, and you said this, you brought this up, the health concerns that come with peanut butter. You even talked about, people with diverticulitis. I can't even say that word. It's such a big word to say. But also, Paul, with the allergies that people have toward peanut butter, people who may not even eat the peanut butter and jelly sandwich are at risk for their lives because you may eat that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They could die because you could commit peanut butter murder on somebody with peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They got to take their EpiPen around just in case something happens and they get this attack coming through. So you're telling me that we are going to put the champion today is going to be a health concern versus the pure and great health ham and cheese sandwich.
You're really going peanut butter murder? Really? What person died because of the peanut butter needs? Are you saying that the peanut has you're going with the live peanut guy? We're going to shoot him and obliterate him so we can wipe him all over our bread? That sounded bad. Okay, but
look, your wife went on my side. That's all I can say.
Well,
yeah. Crust or no crust?
I prefer no crust. But I'm lazy, so I'm just going to eat it. Now Stephanie, let's go ham and cheese here. Stephanie will make the ham and cheese, and she'll grill it for Tyler. And now you grill up ham and cheese, and that's a different kind of versus series. You know what I'm saying? But for the ham and cheese part, how do you present that sandwich to someone who is lactose intolerant? You're talking about murder here. People that cannot have dairy products. So you're going to put one little piece of ham between two pieces of bread and say, here you go, and it's a nice day. Or would you rather than be able to have the full experience of the creamy peanut butter with, as Dale Jenkins would say, the only thing that exists, which is grape jelly.
Fruit of the vine.
You're oh my goodness. You got out of the cup. One day. Just one day. Well, the people have the peanut jelly is the answer.
Oh, ham and cheese, guys. Ham and cheese. You could deal with a little upset tummy versus death.
All right. My wife just outed me for posting our show on her party page. We need to address that before the show ends, which is very soon, I think. So here we go. The versus series, I think, brings itself to a conclusion. I think that we have addressed everything. I think we've both given our sides properly and appropriately. Appropriately is a little loose way of saying it, but we've presented it, and I think it's safe to say that both ham and cheese and peanut butter and jelly are okay for certain people, but peanut butter and jelly is the answer. The people have chosen.
The people have chosen, Paul. It's great. Well, Paul?
Nope.
No, I can't do that yet.
No, I have to address something here.
Go address your issue. Yes. So Stephanie with an F will be happy with you.
She's not happy with me right now because I post our show in like her little pampered chef party, which I keep waiting for everybody to show up because I got the party favors and everything ready for the party and nobody's coming over. I don't understand how that works. But anyway, I wonder if I probably shouldn't say this live, but I can't because it outs somebody. But anyway, to other people who post things on other people's pages, let's not do it because she compared me to those. So yeah, okay. All right.
I know exactly who she's talking about.
I know. So all I was doing, honey, was trying to share the word of God with the world. And I think if you want to party in a pampered chef kind of way, you should also love Jesus.
It's pampered chef with Jesus.
Pampered chef with Jesus. Doesn't have a ring to it, but I like it, and I want to attend. I want an invitation.
If I ever have one of those, Paul, I'll make sure to.
Save! Same. By the way, if you need Pepper Chef stuff, go to Stephanie's Bros page. She's got a bar.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Well, Paul.
Well, John, my name is Paul Sperlin, and I'm not supposed to post things on things that aren't public posting locations. And this is Jon Paul. This has been the Jon and Paul Show. Thank you for joining us for Caleb Sampson, Jon Paul, Paul Sperlin. Thank you for watching us, and thank you for taking part in the poll, in the show, in the discussion, and also for going to YouTube and being a subscriber to the Jon and Paul Show. Do that. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and any other social media item you can find. We're there at Jon and Paul Show. Go to the website at jonandpaulshow.com and find out more information. Let us know. Calendar's there. Join us. We love you. Appreciate you. Look forward to next week.
Today's show is brought to you by Adventures in Ministry. Check them out at adventuresinministry.com or go to the Google Play Store or iTunes App Store and download today. Also brought to you by Exposure Youth Camp, or EYC. It's hosted at the end of each year. This year it will be December 27th through the 30th. And you can find out more by going to exposureyouthcamp.com or get the apps today. Also brought to you by the Palisades Church of Christ, located in Birmingham, Alabama. Check them out at palisadesfamily.net. The schedule of the Jon and Paul Show coming up. If you have the opportunity to be with them, check it out. Or go to our website, jonandpaulshow.com, to know more. Of course, we want to invite you to come back next Friday at 10 a.m. Lord willing. We'll be with you to have all the ministry talk and the sports talk as well. Hope you go out and make it a great day.